Greetings. I have two things to say before we officially start this review. Number one, yes, I know I need a haircut. I'm happy you noticed, but I do have one scheduled, so relax, it's okay. Number two, most of you out there are probably not going to be happy with what I'm going to say about the original Halo. I know it's beloved by many, for a lot of players have fond memories of playing it online. But remember, I don't review games based on their multiplayer components. I'm primarily a single-player guy. I'm antisocial, and therefore, I rate games based on offline performance. And I'm going to tell you right now that I think Halo 1 is mediocre at best. Oh, I know that gave a few of you some angry tingles throughout your body, but it's okay. I'm allowed to have an opinion, just as you are. With all this said, sit back and enjoy the review. Or not. I wouldn't be surprised if my subscriber count drops dramatically after this. I have no regrets. So yeah, Halo, Combat Evolved, the first game in a very popular series. I never owned any Xbox until recently, but I've played the PC version of Halo when I was deployed overseas. One of the Air Force guys loaded the installer onto a flash drive, and surprisingly, it played on the office computers, so I spent a few days playing it after work. This was back in 03 or 04, and I wasn't too impressed with it back then either. It wasn't terrible, mind you. I felt like I've played better. Fast forward about 20 years, and I decided to revisit the game to see if my opinion changed. Again, keep in mind that I do not base my thoughts on the multiplayer aspects, as I know a lot of people enjoyed fragging each other over various maps with diverse guns, large maps, and drivable vehicles. But ask yourself this, when was the last time you played the single-player campaign, if ever? In this, you play as the famous Master Chief, a soldier that was in cryostasis for a substantial amount of time. At least, I think that's what's going on. He comes out of a deep sleep, so that's what I'm going to go with. He gets a quick calibration to his suit and then is thrust right into combat against a force that's attacking the spaceship, known as the Covenant. The reason for the attack isn't apparent right away, but one of the things I noticed immediately is how different the alien weapons were. Human soldiers have your typical assault rifle, shotgun, pistol, and sniper rifle, which are all bullet-based. All of the alien weaponry is energy-based, which changes things up quite a bit. Human weapons need to be reloaded, but alien guns use a non-replaceable battery, and as such, when ammo starts to run low, you just pick up a new weapon. The exception to this is the Needler, which I always found to be one of the absolute worst weapons in the game, but I'll get to the actual weaponry in a bit. Back to the takeover of the Pillar of Autumn, the name of the spaceship Master Chief starts on. He attempts to fight off the Covenant, but it gets overrun, and he is ejected onto a strange world that is on the Halo itself, which you find out to be a massive super weapon. It is now Master Chief's mission to disable the Halo before the Covenant are able to use it against mankind to eradicate us. No pressure. So yeah, the enemy has a vastly different look than the human forces. You have your typical grunts who make me laugh because they'll often panic and run around with their arms in the air, and the squeaky voices are comical. Stick them with a plasma grenade and they'll usually run off towards their allies, taking out a few of their partners in the process. I love these grunts. The other enemies are much more menacing, with the shield-toting thugs and the large assault rifle or plasma sword-wielding enemies. Those are the bigger threats and should be taken out first. Speaking of taking out enemies, again, there are a decent amount of weapons available. The starting pistol has a 2x zoom, and it just feels satisfying to swap to that gun, as Master Chief will always pull back the slide and chamber around in a very menacing way. The sniper rifle isn't bad, as it also has a night vision built into the scope. The shotgun is fantastic, and once you find it, you should never give it up voluntarily. But the assault rifle? It looks cool, sure, but there is one catch. It is inaccurate as hell! The bullets go all over the place, and you might need to use an entire 60-round clip just to kill one enemy. Not exactly ammo efficient now, is it? Personally, I prefer the alien assault rifle. It's accurate, and reminds me kind of like the plasma rifle from Doom. The pistol isn't a bad alternative, as it does have the bonus that, although not automatic, the shots can be charged up. I personally didn't use it often, but it is nice if you need to throw out some hefty damage, which isn't often as there are no bosses in the game. As for the Needler, it has a 20-round mag that fires shots that home into its targets and then explode a few seconds later. It sucks when fired at you because they seem to seek you out much easier than if you fire at the Covenant. I fire the Needler, and 95% of the shots seem to completely miss their target. With all of this said, there is another force that you'll come across, known as the Flood. These are mutated creatures of sorts, starting off with small little tick-like creatures that zombified soldiers with lackluster gun skills. There is a specific area in the game called the Library where you'll be going up against wave upon wave of these creatures. The ticks are fun to kill, as they pop, and the gun-toting monsters aren't exactly the most competent. However, in their hordes, they can easily overrun and cause damage. You don't run into these often, but once you do, you're probably going to learn to hate them. Speaking of taking damage, I believe this is the first game I've played with the shield system. Here's how this works if you've never seen it. You have 8 units of health and a shield. When taking damage, it goes directly to your shield. Once the shield runs out, any subsequent hits will go to your health. Once you stop taking damage for a few seconds, then the shield will begin to recharge. Health packs can be found to replenish your life, but obviously, 8 hits in a first-person shooter isn't very much, so if you can't get your shield to recharge, you are going to watch your health drain. There were many times where I was teetering on the verge of death. I will say that I do enjoy this health system though. So far, I seem to be praising the game, right? So why do I consider it just to be plain average? Is it just to piss you guys off? No, I have my reasons. As in, number 1, the levels kinda suck. I'm going to duck as the debris comes flying at me, but hear me out. Some stages, notably the outdoor areas, are well done. There's a colorful landscape that resides on the Halo itself, and there's a dense, dark swamp as well. There's even some snowy zones to traverse. But much of the game takes place in subterranean areas, which are just plain bland, lengthy, linear corridors. In fact, many of the areas look like they were just copy and pasted multiple times. Even better, you have to backtrack through lots of these areas. It's almost as if the developers didn't have a lot of ideas for map designs and just thought, let's just use the same areas over and over. I just found most areas uninteresting and therefore, they didn't really hold my interest, which made it hard to actually sit through the entire game again. The second big annoyance that I have is with the vehicle controls. I'm perfectly fine with using WASD to move the vehicle around and using the mouse to aim the camera. So why do people mess with this scheme? Halo uses a system in which you point the camera in the direction that you want to move. Yes, Borderlands uses the same control scheme and it annoyed me in that game as well, but it felt a bit more solid in Borderlands. In Halo, the vehicles feel super slippery, as if you are always driving on ice, even though those tires look like they can dig into dirt perfectly fine. It's harder than it needs to be to move around, and since the camera also controls your vehicle's direction, you can't really get a good look at your surroundings. Flying vehicles use the same controls, and it's equally as frustrating. Finally, although not frequent, there are a few platforming sections. Again, platforming does not belong in FPS games, people. Well, at least most FPS games. There are a very minimal amount that seem to do okay with it, but these are few and far between. Here, the jumps are floaty due to low gravity, yet floors seem to be somewhat slippery, like Master Chief can't get a good footing. In the final areas of the game, you have to jump around a bit to reach some higher areas, and for the life of me, I struggled to get on top of this stupid canister. I had cursed the game many times. There is another area above this in which if you fail to jump, you'll plop on down and have to go all the way up again. There's no need for this. Simple stairs or an elevator would have sufficed in my worthless opinion. The graphics for the time were pretty good. The weapons have decent detail, although I felt that the alien weapons looked better, almost shiny in fact. They even showed their overheat gauge right on the weapon, so that was cool. And although the non-outdoor levels looked boring, there were some decent details on some of the walls and floors, which did help to keep me going for a few seconds. I would talk about the sound, but it is your typical FPS stuff. Suspenseful background tracks, grunts and screams, lots of shots being fired, you know, the norm. I cannot deny that the title theme is immediately recognizable though. So would I recommend Halo in this day and age? I still stand by my thoughts that the game is just average. If it had a better human assault rifle, as in one that could actually hit enemies, and better level design, I could forego the annoying vehicle movement controls. But the fact that many stages just feel like rehashes, the colorful landscapes are minimal, and the overabundant use of repeated dark corridors made the game feel like a slog, at least it does to me. Even with that, the battle against the Covenant and Flood, especially when there's a triangle war between them and also the humans in the final levels, can be somewhat fun to partake in. I just cannot get past the lackluster stages though. Again, you guys can feel free to disagree with me, and I'm sure the multiplayer was a blast and much more fun than the online mode, but play the campaign again and see what you think. I just cannot get into it. And no, I haven't played any other Halo game, even though I've heard they're all pretty good. Maybe in the future I'll give a few other games in the series a go and see what I think. Final score? And again, you're gonna hate me. 4 out of 7. This is Reaper. Happy fragging.